All right, looking to buy a house now is 6 to 7%. The new normal now. How long is this going to last? Man, we've seen in the past where it's lasted years. People, it lasted 10 years, or more before the rates would go down. What's going to happen now? Hey, what else is going to happen here in the mortgage and the housing industry all up here in Northeast Florida, this Jacksonville metro area? That's what this show is all about. Hey, you know what? I'm a little banged up from this last week. You can see I got a bandage on my neck, my face, my arms are all beat up. So I'm in pain, but I'm going to get the show out, because every week what I do is I bring you the real numbers here in real estate up here in Northeast Florida. That's right. I'm just a regular guy who happens to be a real estate agent up here, so I take you into the back end of my MLS account and bring you the data. In fact, this is what we're going to be looking at on top of the interest rates. We're going to take a look at those active listings, which is our inventory. We're going to look and see how many sold 7 days. We're also going to take a look and see how many are actively under contract, how many went pending in the last 7 days, and also take a look at those new home sales, see what their active inventory is and what they sold in the last 7 days also. I export all that data out, and a whole lot more goes into an Excel spreadsheet, which looks kind of like this, which is a little bit hard to read, but I clean it up into my own Excel spreadsheet, which looks more like this, and we're able to easily look at week by week and year by year. This is season 4. That's right, I'm in my 4th season now of doing this show, Bubble Watch, and that's where I started this back in 2022, so I can give you all that data. And so, just stay with me. We're gonna show it all here tonight. But while all those numbers are crunching out, let's take a look and see what those interest rates did this last week. All right, here we're going to take a look at the rates, and what we do is we look at 3 different types. We look at your conventional 30-year, we look at FHA, and we look at VA. Now, on all these charts, we start down here at the bottom in this location where it is last week where we left off, and then we end up at the top where it is this week. And then these arrows on the side show the differences, okay, and changes. So as you can see, last week we ended at 6.94, kept hit. We've been trying to get to that 7 for a while, it looks like, right? Well, they finally hit it, okay? And as you see, we ended up with 7.07. So you see the fluctuation in arrows down, but then those up arrows just pushed it over that 7. Now, something else that's here, I'm going to show you here, is the prior year. Okay, so last year at this time, these are the rates. We're there. We're where we were last year. Okay, the FHA rates are generally cheaper, and this is your FHA. Last week we ended at 6.4 and ended up at 6.53 this week. Your VA rates generally follow along with the FHA. We were at 6.41 last week and ended up at 6.54 for this week. Well, for the last few weeks, they've been trying to kiss that 7%, and sure enough, they did it this time. And then see, we're where we were last year, basically at this time. So now nothing's changed. There is a crash. It's a housing crash as far as sales go. But as far as, people, what the price and people are paying and these rates and everything, we haven't seen a crash there yet, okay? So, it's tough. So I'm giving you a lot of information tonight, and you're going to decide what you want to do with it. All right, now let's take a look at those Excel spreadsheets I was talking about. And something I do special in these spreadsheets, I show you the median price per week. That's right, we follow it weekly on the median price for single-family homes, townhomes, and condos. And man, I'm telling you, it's like a yo-yo. It all depends on what's out there. And wait till you see my charts that show how many homes sold for $500,000 and above. All that gets factored in. So let's go to those Excel spreadsheets right now. All right, here we are now into the back end of my Excel spreadsheet, and I'm going to briefly go over it for the folks that are new to the show, and then we'll hit these numbers. Okay, this yellow column right here, this is our current week. We're in season 4, week 2, and these are the numbers for this week. Now, to the right of it, that white column, that is last year at this time. So right away you can see how easy it is to compare last year's numbers to this year's numbers. YOY stands for year-over-year percentage in difference. And then this blue SFH column, that's where I just pull the single-family homes out of all the total data and just show them individually because they are the highest category of sales is single family homes. So I just show those numbers just for grins. Now, these other two yellow columns over here you see, those are the previous 2 weeks. So you see how easy it is to compare the last couple of weeks to last year also at this time. And also this whole spreadsheet is downloadable in the description of the video. Okay, there will be a link, okay, to this spreadsheet, the same one that I'm using on the show, but it goes all the way back to my first show when I did it starting back in May of 2022. So you're going to have all that data if you'd like to. And then also, as I go through things, if I go quickly, you can pause the video or you can just download that sheet and then check it out. All right, so let's get started. Oh, and this column over here, that just tells you what each row stands for. Active listings, sold, active under contract, and so forth. All right, now let's get started. That first row there in our current week's column is their active listings, and that is our inventory, and that is 11,206, and we can see that that number is up. So the inventory continues to rise, and look at the difference between last year, just 1 year. That's a big difference, okay? But still, I mean, we need more going on, all right? Next, we're going to take a look and see what sold in the last 7 days. That number is 534, okay? So that is an increase. So sales are up, okay? But overall, I mean, even though we're up for these last couple of weeks, I mean, the big picture sales are still down. They're closer to 2008, 2010 levels than they are, 2019, 20, and so forth. All right, then you can see the difference there. We're not that far away from last year, okay? Next, we're going to look at active under contract. These are homes that went under contract with contingencies. Usually the contingency is where they're looking for, like an appraisal, financing, or inspections, okay? So that number is 1,599, and that number is up. So more people went under contract, okay, in these last 7 days. Pending, after they go under contract and the contingencies are cleared, then it goes into pending status, which is next right before closing, okay? So 398 went into pending status, okay? That number is up from last week, but still down from a couple weeks ago. But the number to look at is the total under contract, 1,997. That's where I combined active under contract with the pending, okay? So that number right there is up from the last couple of weeks, okay, when you look at the total. Withdraws, 71. These are homes that are active listings, but they cannot be shown, and for various reasons. A lot of times people are doing repairs, they work from home, don't want people tramping through their house at the time, or someone could be sick and they don't want people to come in the house when someone's sick. Next, we're going to look at expired, 143, okay? So that number's up from last week, almost about what it was 2 weeks ago. These are homes that did not sell and they're off market. So they're probably priced too high, or they could have had insurance problems, okay? Or people, sometimes they just take the home off the market and decide not to sell for whatever reason. So that's where it would end up in the expired, okay? And if they change the expiration date, that's what will happen a lot of times, is when they want to take it off the market, then they just change that expiration date and move it up. Depends on the contract, though. When people list with me, I'd let them get out whenever they want, no problems. Okay, next we're going to take a look at the new homes that sold. And that number is 154, okay? So that number is up, okay? Up quite a bit percentage-wise from the last couple of weeks there. All right, next we look at the new homes active inventory, 2,408, so it's just up by 1 there. Okay, this orange box here, this represents the percentage of homes sold that are new. So we see quite a jump. Almost 29% of the homes sold were new construction homes this last week. All right, over here in the blue column is where, like I say, you see the single family home numbers. I'm not going to go over them individually, but you see them there for you to look at. Okay, this next chart here, as I do the single family homes in their own column there, this is a chart that I have where it's just the condominiums. Some people are interested in condominiums, follow the same format, so I just have it here for you to look at. You can pause the video or just download the Excel spreadsheet. How did people pay for those homes? All right, here we look at this week here. About the same, you know, about 1/4 paying for cash. Okay, conventional mortgage just over 37%. FHA up a little bit to 20%. VA about the same at 16, and I'm surprised interest rates are up, but others dropped to 1.5%. Now I was surprised to see that. These numbers below represent the actual units that sold for those financing options. So you can see out of 534 that sold, 130 were cash deals, 198 were conventional, 108 were FHA, 90 were VA, and then 8 were other. Next, we take a look at those foreclosure numbers. Now, these are the foreclosures that are status as foreclosures, pre-foreclosure short sales in the active listings in the MLS, not the total for Northeast Florida. Okay, just what our active listings in the MLS. Foreclosures 85, pre-foreclosures 18, short sales 53. So we have a total of 156. So it is an increase. So we've seen an increase in the last couple of weeks. Some people may tell you that the dam has broken, but this looks like a trickle. Next, I take a look at what percentage of homes sold under list price, homes that sold at list price, and homes that sold above list. Okay, so we see right here, okay, and it's been in the 70s for a while. Homes that sold under list, okay, almost 77.5. Homes that sold at list, okay, almost 14% there. And then homes that sold above list, just over 8.5%. And then below it, you have the numbers of the units that sold for those categories. And those homes that sold above list, it's not so much multiple offer situations. A lot of times now, what we're seeing is it's where they're getting compensation, so they're getting concessions to help pay for either closing costs or, you know, real estate agent fees or broker fees. Next, I look at the price categories. Okay, homes that sold for $500,000 and above, that's $500,000 above, dropped a little bit from the last couple of weeks to we were just at a little over 25.5%. So 1/4 of the homes, all homes sold, are over $500,000 or 500 and above. Homes that sold in the 400 range, okay, continues to be kind of like a dead zone there, 16.48%. Homes that sold in the 300s, okay, our next biggest group, and that is 25.28. So that's our big group there, the above 500,000 and in the 300s. Then we go into the 200s, and that's 22.28%, and a lot of that you're going to see are going to be townhomes in that. Homes that sold below 200, 10.3%. And then again below it, the numbers represent the units sold in those categories. I then break up the new construction, okay? The same thing, under list, at list, and above list. So we see, you know, in 72.73% sold under list, okay? At list, 18.18. And homes that sold above list, not just over 9%. And that always gets me, homes that sold above list in the new construction. But again, depends, sometimes it's the last model in a neighborhood, and it's sought after, you know, or, you know, it could be just supply and demand in general. All right, here's where I put those median sales numbers together for you. Okay, and first we've got the single family homes there. $396,500 was your median sales price. Right below it, it's $207 a square foot. The median sales price for townhomes was $278,085, and square footage came to 189, and the condos 227,000 and 192 a square foot, and that is our current week. I'll spread this out here so that you can compare it with the other weeks before and see where the trend is. And I'm telling you, man, those single family homes, it's still up there, okay? The square footage, we see a little bit of variation there, but not a whole lot, you know, but they're still pretty high up there for those single family homes. Okay, this is where I take the data from that Excel sheet where I look at the first column. You see what type of it is, whether it's a single family home, condominium, townhouse, so forth. Could be manufactured home in there also. The original list price, that's what it started out with. The list price is what they lowered it to, and then the close price is what they ended up selling it. Now the difference over here, that is the difference between the sold price and the original list price. And then over here I show you the days on the market. Now, every week we do have a bonehead real estate agent, I call it, or clown of the week at just inputs data too quickly, doesn't look at it, makes an error, and then it's a sloppy error here, so it throws off this. We obviously see that this probably here, when you look at the list price and close price, was $1,209,000. That's probably what it was supposed to be. They showed someone threw the decimal off at $12,900,000 for the original list price, what made a difference of over $11.5 million. With that didn't happen. So, and again, I do the median price, so it doesn't really affect my numbers there. And I do make the adjustment in when I do the percentages sold. All right, so what I'm going to do is scroll down on this, and then you can stop it if you'd like, but you see these are all the ones right there that were under list price, all with that negative in front of it, okay? As we get down here, we'll get down to the zeros, and when we get to 0 in that column, then that is going to be right there, your sold at list price. Okay, as you go further down, then you'll see these numbers here that are above list price. And so they're in the plus columns. As you can see, they're kind of small, a lot of them, and that's why I say a lot of it's concessions. Now, when you start getting down here towards the end, some of those could be multiple offer situations. All right, hey, if you like the way I put this show together, then just give this show a thumbs up. And if you want to be part of Bubble Watch Nation, just hit that subscribe button. We come out every Friday night at 6:30 with all this information. Next, I'm going to go into what is called MLS Advantage, and that is where I look at the big picture of all these other MLS boards. In Florida, there's a slew of MLS boards, and some of them do sell here in Northeast Florida. All this data I've been showing you is from the Northeast Florida MLS. This is one I belong to, but I include in MLS Advantage the sales from these others, and not only that, I break it down by county, as you're going to see, so we can see which county has the most activity. So let's look at MLS Advantage right now. Okay, here we are into the MLS Advantage part of my MLS account. And as we look down here, we see the 9 counties that I use in the Jacksonville Metro, and those are Baker, Union, Bradford, Clay, Nassau, Duval, St. Johns, Flagler, and Putnam. So next what I do is I go over here and hit the search button, and that brings us to 714 properties. All right, so we got that 714 total, and I break it down by county so we can see where our activity was this week. Okay, Baker County had 2, down a little bit. Union had 1, same as last week. Bradford was down to 2 this week. Clay County went up a little bit to 69. Nassau County also dropped. Our increase right here was in Duval County, went to 269. St. Johns had an increase at 198. Flagler also had an increase at 105. Putnam had a small increase to 17 for a total of 714. And again, I do like my charts here, how you can just look straight across there and see, compare those totals with the previous weeks and see the flow. And like I says, everything we've seen is pretty much a yo-yo. I am a licensed real estate agent here in the state of Florida, and I work with a select group of agents up here in Northeast Florida to help people buy and sell homes. And if you'd like to work with us, then you can get a hold of us at this number you see here below. Now, what I want to do next is go over a little bit of some of interest rates and median prices, a little bit of history from 2022 till now, and even show you something that happened before, a 10-year spread like I was talking about earlier, how long sometimes you have to wait for these rates to go down. Because a lot of people right now are influenced by a lot of these YouTube videos telling you that everything's going to crash, but they've been telling you this for 3 or 4 years, okay? That doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Sure, it could crash this year. I just haven't seen it, and I've never been promoting that in this show, and anyone that's been watching this show from day one knows that. Now, I just show you the real numbers that are out there. Now, I've got people out there telling me that I'm just doing this just to get you to buy homes because that's what I do. Well, you know what? I wish I had that much influence. If I was able to convince all these people that are on the sidelines to buy a home, that's fantastic. I just don't have that power, so that's all a bunch of baloney when you see comments like that or hear people talking about it, or even people that tell me that, Of course, I blow them off a lot more stronger than I'm telling you on this video. But let's look at these rates, look at some history, and take a look at this, because this is data just for you to help make a decision. All right, let's check it out right now. All right. I've done this before, and it seems like I'm doing it more frequently, and the reason is because I'm speaking with people that bring this up to me. So I bring it on the show because there are a lot of new people that haven't followed me since 2022. So I'm going to show this, and I just had someone this week that brought this up about how they've waited and now things are worse for them. And so let me just show you, and this is just for people to use as information, because what I say is you don't try to time the market, okay? It just isn't a good way to try to buy a house, okay? And now this, remember, we're not talking about investors. This show here is talking about people looking for a place to live, okay? You're gonna rent, or you're gonna buy, or you're living for free in somebody's house. But that's what this is about. All right, so let's start off here. See right there where we are, okay, 7.07%, okay, just like I showed when I showed the interest rates, all right? And then you see down here where it said last year, it was the same rate at that time. But let's go back to when I started the show. Okay, it was about this time here, as you can see right down here, May of 2022. Look at the rates, 5.36, all right. Now, you look at the graph there, you can see the difference, okay? You can see right after, this is around when things started shooting up. You see that, how it just shot up right to the right of me there, okay? Right there, it shot up there to just over 6%. If I can get this cursor right there. All right, just over 6%, but then it dropped again. Look, went down here, okay, into the fives, okay, again, 5.13%, okay, in July, the summer there. But then look at how it shot back up. But I'm telling you, when that first blip went up, and right here when it came down, everyone was screaming, everything's collapsing, it's 2008 all over again. People were jumping out of windows. I mean, it was ridiculous. That's why I started the show. I says, well, let's track this and see if we can catch this bubble that's going to burst. So that's, and hence the name, you know, Bubble Watch, okay, for the show. So you're at this point. All the YouTube videos you're seeing, all the people you're talking to, that's right, you've got an Uncle Fred that is in real estate. It's been there 40 years. You've got another relatives telling you don't buy because it's crashing in Florida. Don't do that. Everyone's telling you this. You're looking at the YouTube videos. So you hold off because the crash is coming this year, 2022, 2023, 2024, you're going to go out and get the house. Well, look at that. Now, let me put something else out there for you. Here's the chart we just looked at tonight. The median prices, okay? Look at the single family homes. 396,500, okay? But let's go back. 397, 495, 388, 500, 385,000. See the trend there? They're above 350. They're up there, okay? The median sales prices, okay, that we're doing. So now what I did was I went back to a chart that I had. Now, a lot of data I deleted, okay, to save space on my computer, all these videos. But I did find one back in 2022. And this is some of my raw data from the Excel spreadsheet when I exported out of the MLS. So you can see here, the dates right here, the sold date there, that was, you know, we were here in the summer here of 2022. Okay, this is for 1 week, okay, for one of my shows, okay, back there. But this is going to give us an idea of the median price back then. This is the Excel spreadsheet from my show back then in 2022. All right, so how do we do that? We go over here to where it says sold price. Those are our sold. Now, this is an Excel spreadsheet. It's very simple. You go down to the end and to the bottom here, and all you put in is equal median, and then you highlight all the solds. Once I do that, I hit the enter. There we were, 359,150 was the median price back then when I did this particular show in 2022, okay? That was like in August of 2022, okay? So very close, okay, to almost the reference here that we're looking at, 359. So what have we seen now? That was 359,150, and now we're in the upper threes for median price, okay? So the price of the homes, okay, I know in some places there have been drops. Some new homes also have dropped. But when I'm looking at keeping this all together. That's why I stay consistent with my information and every week, so that we can see kind of a trend. We're looking at, there's not really overall a big price reduction. Okay, so let's just say you financed $300,000, okay? The house is $350, you put 50 down or whatever, you know, maybe it was $400, you put 100 down. Let's just say $300,000 you financed. Okay, back then when that rate was 5.36, okay? Your monthly payment, principal and interest, not the insurance and taxes, $1,677. All right, let's put in that 7.07 that we have right now and hit that calculate button. 2010. So we went from 1677 to 2010. Okay, so right there, we're over $300 a month difference just from the interest, not counting if the house cost more. Not only that, but if the house cost more, the taxes would be more. So why I'm showing you this is because all these people that are being told to time the market to buy a place to live, let me show you something else. All right, here we are. Look at this, 6.9%. Okay, close to where we are right today. September 1993. Okay, look at the chart across. Okay. Now, so you're there in September of 93, and look, there's a blip about to go up, just like what we just had, what I just showed you, okay, in 2022, blip about to go up, and people are saying, now this came off the worst crash, that there, where you see that high peak there, that's when I bought my house, okay? But let's look at this, put it in perspective. You're told to wait it out, okay? Well, I'm going to tell you something. Let's take a look. You're going to wait until those rates go down. You're not paying this. You want those rates to drop, okay, below 6% before you're even looking at getting a house. So look at these rates. Not back up to 9%, huh? Look at that, huh? 9% back down into the sevens, the sevens. Okay, 6.9. Well, we still got a ways to go. When do we get below 6? Not until January of 2003. That's right, 10 years. When I say, I mean, it's like 10 years. Oh my gosh. Okay, so you're going to wait 10 years. Now, what do you think happened to homes in 10 years? Now, I didn't look at the stats there, but I bet they went up. Okay, we didn't get, because now we are very close to 2005 when things really escalated in the price of homes. Okay, but homes went up. So 10 years if you waited, because you're gonna play the market, because Aunt Betty told you that, no, I know real estate, this ain't the time, wait it out. Well, this is why I say you don't play the market. You got to do what your gut says, what you can do. I'm not talking about, again, I have to keep saying it, I'm not talking about people that can't afford it because, they can't get financed and all because of the cost of everything. But I'm talking about that if you can and it's in your budget, but you're holding off because everyone's telling you the crash is here, the crash has come. Folks, the crystal ball is cracked. It doesn't exist no more. No one knows what's going to cause things to happen. Things can change. I mean, world events can change things. We could go into a total financial collapse this year and bring everything down. But you know what? If that happens, you probably ain't going to have a job and be able to buy a house anyhow also. So, just take all this data that I give you every week. You want to talk. I get people call me all the time just to talk about the market and what my feel of things up here. And look at what we've got. People that hate this show are the ones that don't like to see the truth, the real numbers, when I show the real numbers, what's going on weekly. That doesn't mean, like I say, 6 months from now, by the end of the year, we could be having a whole different conversation. It's a whole different show. But I've been doing it now since May of 2022, and this is what we're seeing. You just look at it, and it just, my point is, you just can't time the market or play it, and I'm the worst person to try to argue that with, because I bought my first house like that, and you know, with in a bad market. So I know. So it's like, you know, it's what you can afford, what you can do now. I get it. With inflation and the price of everything, a lot of people just can't get into it even though they want to. They don't like living with mom and dad. They don't like living with Aunt Betty, you know, or Uncle Bob or whatever. But it's, you know, they have no choice. But I'm talking about the people that can, that are just holding back because they're getting all this information telling them to wait. How long are you going to wait? Until your kids graduate from high school? You just have to use the data how you see fit. I'm not telling you to buy or sell. You know, I'm just giving you this information on a weekly basis, the real numbers in real estate from my MLS. And then you can decide what you want to do with it. Hey, you know what? This is season 4, week 2, and it is in the can. And until next week, I'm out of here.